Welcome. You're watching Rugby with Rifle, a podcast about all things rugby and life, with your host, Danny Pabone and Rifle Scudder.
Welcome to Rugby with Rifle, a podcast about all things rugby and life. As always, I'm joined here with my friend Rifle. Rifle, how are you doing, sir?
Doing very well. Thank you, Danny. How about yourself?
Doing good, doing good. In this episode, we just wanted to do a little bit different just to talk about the potential of rugby in America. And I know we've spoken about this before, Rifle, in previous episodes, but we just wanted to focus on, again, the culture of rugby internationally, I should say, and then the culture of sports in general in the United States of America, United States. And we had a very interesting conversation earlier in the week just about the amount of money that is involved in sports in the US. I mean, we spoke about the NFL having a revenue of about $23 billion, the Major League Soccer having a revenue about $2 billion or something like that. Major League Baseball, if I'm not mistaken, has a revenue of about 12 or 13 billion. So, and this is just revenue from, ticket sales and merchandise and all the other stuff. And then you have all the TV contracts, all the jerseys that are sold, all the other stuff that's sold between, American football, baseball, soccer, hockey, basketball. So with all those leagues combined, with all the TV contracts, with all the merchandise that's sold, and then all the other extra stuff that's, you have agents of players, you have lawyers that deal with contracts, you have all the different types of professional careers that are attached to professional sports. And we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars a year in the US that is spent on sports and in investments. Now compare that to rugby, which is not a major sport in the US, and we're hoping that will change in the next few years with the Rugby World Cup coming in 2031. We're hoping, and I'm confident that will change in the next few years. So I just wanted you, just from your perspective, Rifle, and again, we've spoken about this, but I wanted to dig a little deeper from your perspective coming to America in 2010 again?
2010.
Yes. What your perspective on the American sports landscape from your experience of rugby in South Africa, you were in Japan, you were in Taiwan, just the different landscapes between rugby and the American professional sports landscape. What's your experience has been?
I think if not the biggest thing for America is, and I don't think American people realize the size of America, literally the country, how big it is.
Yes.
We have a French student staying at our house now during the summer holiday as an exchange student, and for him to fly all the way from France to here, it's more or less 8 hours, and that's internationally, and it crosses so many countries. If I get on a plane here in Washington, D.C., in the east of America, and I fly all the way to the west, I fly longer than that, and I'm still in the same country.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get in a car here and you drive, I mean, you can drive from here. We went to Sturgis Motorcycle Rally a couple of years ago. It was 36 hours drive time. Just stop for petrol, not stopping and braking, just petrol, something to eat, and then drive. So the vastness of the country makes it so difficult to compare apples to apples when it comes to other countries and
Yes.
sports. If you look at other big countries, rugby wise, if you take the British and Irish Lions, those four nations, if you take the All Blacks, Australia is also a huge, big country, but they're pockets where
Hmm.
the sport is played. Not like here. I'm from South Africa. I'm a Springbok fan. That's another big difference between America, especially as I talk about the NFL and rugby in another country, is in the NFL, you have, correct me if I'm wrong, you've got 32 teams,
32, yep.
32. So you've got the AFC, NFC, 16 in each. And each team is huge in itself,
Hmm.
where in other rugby countries, we don't have. You got the clubs, but size wise, they can't compare to any American NFL team. I don't care this. What would you say is the smallest NFL team in the whole league?
Well, it's interesting you asked because I actually looked this up a couple of weeks ago. Um, if you know when you invest in buying a team, they do valuations. Professionals come in, auditors come in and do, okay, this is what the team. If you want to buy the team, this is essentially what you're gonna pay. It's valuation. So, can you take a guess, Rifle? What's the most valuable team in the NFL? Just take a guess.
I would say Dallas Cowboys.
You are correct. How much are they worth if you were to buy the Cowboys?
Well, that I wouldn't know. I mean, definitely in the billions. I mean,
Yes.
there's definitely no doubt in the billions of dollars.
Okay, so just pick a number. What would be your best
20
guess?
billion,
Okay, not that much, but $12 billion
12 billion. Yeah.
if you wanted to purchase the Cowboys. Now, what is their revenue? Now, I'm not talking about the NFL revenue. I'm talking about the team revenue, selling the merchandise,
Jerseys, merchandise, adverts,
ticket
content, all
sales.
that.
Yes.
That's more than 20 billion. I mean, that's
Well,
hundreds.
no, it's again. This is just Cowboys. Just the Cowboys alone have $1.4 billion in revenue. Just one team in the NFL, $1.4 billion
A year.
a year in revenue.
Wow. Yeah.
Now, your question is, what's the lowest team?
Yeah. What's the
I
smallest? Yeah.
believe, if I'm not mistaken, from if my memory serves me correct, the Cleveland Browns, if I'm not mistaken, or if you were to buy them, I believe the valuation was close to a little under $1 billion, and the revenue was like 450, $500 million.
Yeah.
And please forgive me, Cleveland Browns fans, if I'm off on the
Mhm.
numbers. But yeah,
Yeah.
to your point, it's a lot of money.
So that's the thing. If you take any England, New Zealand, Australia, the biggest club, it doesn't come close to what America has here.
Mhm.
And you take the 32 teams and you put all of that money together, there's so much money in the game that is not in rugby yet. Another big difference is you do not have an American side where everyone can cheer for because America's playing football against another nation.
Yes.
And that's, I always talk about that before rugby game, where you have two countries playing against each other and you listen to the anthems. It doesn't matter if you have the smallest rugby nation in the world. When those guys stand up and their anthem is played, they stand and they cry and they give everything they have. We don't have that in America because we don't play other nations in the NFL football. You know, you play against the Titans, play against DC, and you play against Washington, and you play against Pittsburgh, but you don't play America against someone else. So that's another big thing where you got coaches, and if you go to YouTube and you listen to the national coaches of a team that coach the All Blacks, if you listen to Steve Hansen or you go to King Henry and you listen to their interviews that they have, or Clive Woodward, who won the World Cup with England, or you go to Rassie Erasmus now, who's coaching the Springboks, or you go to Eddie Jones, who coached the Aussies, and you listen to them, it's a complete different mental attitude coaching the national side as to coaching a team that is only representing one state. And you're not even the owner or the main guy of that team. You're just the coach. They can fire you as they want because of the money and performance. So that's another huge difference between the rugby culture of every big rugby nation in the world and America. And I think a prime example of that is for the last 2 weeks that I've gone to the gym, and when I do cardio, there's 56 televisions around you all over the gym. And most of them are sport related. They're very few at our gym. I go to A Gold's gym here. And for the last 2 weeks, they have been focusing on what we were talking about, Dallas Cowboys. Because apparently, and I don't know the whole in and out, but Jerry Jones doesn't want to pay Micah Parsons what he wants, and he wants a contract extension. And for 2 weeks, every single day while I was doing cardio, that's all they spoke about, is about the money, how much he wants, how good is he. Jerry Jones saying this, I can't hear because they've got subtitles, so I don't know the ins and outs of the circumstance. But all I know is that for 2 weeks, they were discussing money, and not one little bit of the actual game of football was discussed. And I think to myself, when I buy a ticket and I put my bum in a seat, I don't want to hear Jerry Jones saying the reasons why he's going to not pay or why he will pay. I want to watch football or rugby, whatever I pay to see. And that's a big difference in the culture of America because it's so big. There's so much money. It's organized in a different manner. You don't have one national team. I mean, there, you and I last weekend, we went to Washington, D.C. to watch the American Eagles rugby team play. And we stood up and we sang the anthem, and it was great. There wasn't any bitterness, or there wasn't anyone saying, oh, this player, they held a carrot in front of him and said, if you play 2 more years, we'll give you. It was very different. And I think coaches who coach international sides, which every other rugby nation can do, America just doesn't have that because they do not have an NFL, a national side. And that's why I think the rest of the world many, many times laughs at America, because you in America would say world champions for
World
a baseball
Series.
team, a basketball team, football team. They world champions. Really, who did they play against? Well, they played against the other 31 teams in the NFL. Which country did they play? Just America. How can you call yourself? They will. I mean, if the Steelers or the Kansas City Chiefs or whoever, the Patriots, play football against any other nation, we know that they would be. But just to call yourself world champions and you didn't play any other team, we look at that and we think, rugby, the Olympics, all of these things, soccer, you've got a team who are world champions. Why? Because once every 4 years, they have to play the best of the best to prove that they are the best. In America, every single year you have the Super Bowl. It's not right or wrong, it's just different. And that personally I see as a big thing in the difference between rugby and, my goodness, the basketball, the baseball, the ice hockey, the football that America has. There's so much money, and America is so big that they can have their own league regardless of what the rest of the world does. You don't need anyone to play NFL football because, Canada's got a league. They can't compete against the NFL in America. You don't need other people because America is just so big, just so powerful, just so strong, just so rich. You do what you guys want. This is what we're going to do, and this is how we do it. Where with rugby, you can't do that. It's not done that way. If you want to have a new rule change or whatever, everyone in the world, the IRB, the rugby board has to get together, have meetings, decide. NFL, we want to change something, we just do it. We don't need to go to anyone else. We will have our franchises come together with our owners come together and decide. So that's a big difference if that answers the question that you're asking.
No, no, it does. And again, just like you just mentioned a minute ago, so it's, you know, we're not saying it's right, we're not saying it's wrong. It's just
Just
reality. It's
different.
just what it
Yeah.
is. And the U.S. is a blessed country in the sense of the amount of money that flows through the country, and not to get into a economics lesson, the fact that 60-70% of world trade is denominated in US dollars. That plays a huge role in it as well. So yeah, it's just interesting to hear the perspective of, and again, just you're an American citizen now. So when I say outsider, I don't mean that any disrespect, and you know that.
Mm.
But just from an outsider, and a person being from South Africa, and then you living in, like I said, in Taiwan, in Japan, just listening to your perspective. Sometimes, it's funny. Another thing, and that this has to go with your. This goes to the point of you saying, America being such a huge country with different cultures and different people from different backgrounds. Another thing that's not necessarily related to sports is that many Americans don't travel internationally, unfortunately. And I'll put myself in that group. Hopefully, well, I'm not going to say hopefully, one day I will get to Europe, because Europe is a beautiful continent. You have many beautiful countries in Europe. But the reason why a lot of Americans don't travel internationally is because the US, like you say, the US is so big. I mean, if you go to Southern California, you have a huge Mexican culture, you know, that you could go to. You feel like you're in Mexico. Um, Go to Miami, you feel like you're in Cuba. Go
Yeah.
to, all different parts of the United States where you have different sections where you have the majority of people from this country or this culture or whatever the situation it may be. So, unfortunately, and I say unfortunately, but it's not unfortunately at the same time. Americans don't travel out of the country because they don't because there's so many beautiful places to visit in this country. So it goes to your point where America is so big, so rich, so many blessings that why do we need to go? Why? Yeah, we're called world champions in the NFL and the baseball. Deal with it. What are you going to do
Yeah.
about it?
Yeah.
So we have that mentality. So yeah, it's interesting to hear just again a perspective on the sports culture in this country from a person who grew up really most of their lives not in the American sports culture. So yeah, it's very
Yeah.
interesting.
Another thing as well is coaches in the NFL don't get to be with the same player for
Mm.
many, many years. So even on television, if you watch the big sports program and they have someone speaking on the NFL or they're asking him his opinion, you will see it says there this guy played in the NFL for 15 seasons. He played 3 for the Ravens, 4 for the Lions, 4 for the Redskins, whatever. Where in rugby that doesn't happen that much because of you can get cut after one season so very easily, and another team will pick you up
Mm.
and you can go from one team to another. So you don't really build a very intimate relationship with a coach, I believe, where he knows you and he knows your family and he knows what's happening at home. It's kind of like that movie Jerry Maguire, where Tom Cruise gets to know this guy because he's his agent. But in rugby, if you go listen to international coaches talk about players that they've had who played in the international arena for 10 years, where you don't really have that in the NFL. You got maybe like a Tom Brady, who was there for more than 10 years. You have a Brett Favre, or an Aaron Rodgers, or somebody like that who was at a certain franchise for a long, long time. Not even the same coaches there for that long, because coaches change. Where in rugby, you'll have coaches that are maybe there for maybe 1 or 2 or 3 World Cups, where they get to be with these players and they know them inside and out, and their family and what's happening in their personal lives. And they build that rapport, they build that friendship, they build that closeness, where you don't really get that in the NFL that much. And that's another thing, where you listen to the interviews with international coaches of the All Blacks, of Australia, and the coaches talk about the players and little things that they remembered about players. And you can go and listen to, Steve who coached the All Blacks, or Rassie with South Africa, or as I say, Clive Woodward with England. You listen to these guys, and not that you don't have the emotional moment in the NFL, coaches and players and so on, but I think it's way more evident with international coaches and players that they've been coaching for years, and just the friendship that they develop. And when they speak about them, it's not just the player, it's somebody that I know. I mention him by name and I understand what makes him tick. And we saw in that, Chasing the Sun, when Rassie gets into the change room, how he spoke to the guys. He gets in there, he said, man, you guys lied, you didn't speak the truth, you said you were going to give your all, and he can say that because he played there, and they know that's who he is, and he's honest, and he speaks from the heart. And any other team, if you listen to someone like that, I don't want to play for someone like that. There's no way someone's going to talk to me like that, and I'm going to give him my best. But they have that camaraderie with the players because it's a national team. And we don't have that in America, as I said. So I think that's a big difference in the coaching way, or the coaching system, because of the money. Coach may have not done so well, or didn't, people expected more wins out of a coach, and that's what they have in the NFL after the playoffs, Black Monday. These are the following coaches that have been fired. Why? Because the teams didn't do well. And we get someone else in, and they get new players, where in rugby you also have that, but not to the level that you do in the NFL. I think that's another big difference as well, is just the coaching and the way you can coach, and the camaraderie that happens because you spend way more years in a national side or a club side in rugby than what you do in football, unless you are the absolute GOAT in football, and you can choose to stay with one franchise all the 20 years that you're in the NFL. But I'm sure you can name players on one hand who have been with a franchise for 20 years, started there, finished there, and that's what all they chop and change, and things happen. So that's another reason I think rugby is very different from American football.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting point about just the relationship you form with players on the rugby side when there's international play. I think the biggest part about the American sports culture, and again we come back to money. You have these athletes, if you consider one of the best players at your position, and it doesn't matter what sport it is, you get this huge contract for however many years, 4 or 5 years. We're talking about 250, $300 million contracts. That's your average contract in the NFL, baseball, and the NBA. We're talking about 4 or 5 years, anywhere between $300 to $400 million. That's your average contract right now between those three sports. And I think what happens is, and again, I'm not in the locker room, so this is just from an outside perspective, and from years, 2-3 years down the line when that specific player leaves, I think there's a resentment that grows in the other players' hearts and minds towards that player for the most part. Because when you make that much money, and there's always exception to the rules, there's always exception to the rules. But a good percentage of the time, when a player gets to that level and makes that much money, it becomes all about them. And when a player has that mindset where it gets to the point where they act like it's all about them, resentment grows within the other players, and then you have teammates fighting with each other. You have teammates saying, hey, yes, you're great, but, come on, we're a team here. It's not all about you.
Mm.
So, unfortunately, that's another aspect of the American sports culture. And if a team, I mean, if I was a rugby commissioner or rugby coach or rugby team owner, Rifle, and I come to you, hey, Mr. Scudder, I'm going to give you 5 years, $250 million to come play with me. Are you going to say no?
Mm.
I'm asking for real. Are you going to say no?
Oh my goodness, I've never been offered that much money. So,
Come
in my
on, let's
heart
be
of hearts, I
real,
would have said,
Rifle. You tell me, where's the pen and where's the contract?
yeah,
So it's not a judgment on those players, because if a team offers you that, I'll be honest, I'll be like, okay, where do I sign?
yeah,
If a team offers me that much, if I demand that much and the team gives it to me, I'm gonna, okay, where do I sign? So it's
yeah,
not a judgment on those players, but my point is, I think the money factor also plays into this. Of if there's a player that's not happy with the team, or they could be happy with the team and with the coach, but the team doesn't want to give you that money, okay, I'm going to go to a team that gives me that money. So
yeah.
again, money plays a huge factor in that aspect that you just spoke about coaches and players building those relationships that last for years. I think money has a lot to do with that aspect of the game as well.
Yeah, money has a lot to do with every aspect of
Yes.
everything in the world.
Yes.
Always sticks
Unfortunately,
its head out in every discussion. Money is, part of it, unfortunately.
yes. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but
Yeah,
it's just
definitely. Yeah.
reality of life.
Another thing is, players who want to become better, or maybe they are not as good as they used to be, can go somewhere else in the world of rugby.
Mhm.
For example, so many of our players, and I say our players, guys playing now for New Zealand, for South Africa, for England, they go and they play in Japan. They're improving, Japanese rugby and clubs over there. They don't play so much, so they're saving their bodies a lot of hurt. And Japan's money is good. South Africa, the players are playing elsewhere because wherever you go, the money is way better than what they're being paid in South Africa.
Mhm.
Our rand is really not good right now, so they can go play. They can go play in England, where they get more money. They can go to Japan, where once again in America, uh, where else are you going to play American football? You can't go to another country. You've got to find another team. Where in rugby, that's a big thing. You can go and play for another nation, in club. Obviously, there are different policies. For example, New Zealand doesn't allow players to play for another club outside of New Zealand and be allowed to play for the All Blacks.
Mhm.
So, prime example is their brilliant fly half Richie Mwanga, who plays in Japan, and he can't be chosen for the All Blacks because he doesn't play his club rugby right there. So that's another big thing, is that you can go and play in another country and still play for your nation, but money once again has a lot to do with it. So yeah, so there are two or three differences that I see in rugby and the rugby culture around the world and just America. Not right, not wrong, just different. That's all.
Yes, yes, it is, and
Yeah,
that's it's very interesting. And this episode is the whole we always say all things rugby and life. This is the life aspect of rugby and just sports in general is, again, it's just uh, one more thing that I just wanted to say. And, if you want to add anything before we end this episode, because we just wanted to keep just to touch upon about the culture of American sports and the culture of rugby in general. Um, the one thing, and I've mentioned this in our 3 episodes ago. I don't remember which episode exactly. Oh, it was the episode where we spoke about our trip to DC. It's just, watching the fans standing up for the national anthems of the US, the national anthem of Fiji, and the national anthem of England. Just watching the fans standing up in unison, standing still, and showing respect to the 3 different countries. That moment of the weekend, I was like, wow. With everything that's going on in the world that we're not going to get into because this is not that type of podcast. But with everything that's going on around the world, just to have fans from different countries, and probably the majority of those fans there live in the United States, but they're originally from England, or maybe some of them originally are from Fiji. Just to see fans from different countries just come together, enjoy each other, watch a great game. There's no fights, like you have mentioned. There's no fights. There's nobody cursing at each other. Everybody's respectful to each other. Yes, you have, people cheering when their team scores, but there's no, oh, the US sucks, oh, England, blah, blah, blah. There was none of that. So just watching different people, different fans from different countries coming together to watch a great game. I wish we would see that more again in the American sports culture. Unfortunately, you do see that. I'm not going to say it never happens. You do see that. But fortunately, a lot of times you see, people bashing the other team, people fighting, people cursing at each other. And it's very unfortunate. You don't see that very much in the whole rugby culture. So, yeah.
Yeah. And we've spoken about it before, even on the previous podcast, we were talking about the British and Irish Lions, that whole incident that happened at the 79th minute, just the way that the ref is respected
Hmm.
in rugby compared to other sport. Where, in the NFL also you can't touch, you're not allowed to, what the ref says, that goes. People are not, that's very well put in the NFL, where the ref is, you can't come up
Yeah.
to him. But games, for example, soccer, where people go up to the ref, stand and shout in his face. Baseball, they go and they chase people off the field. Rugby, the ref says, "This is it." You turn around and yes sir, no sir, and you do it. After the game, you can talk about it, but
Yes.
on the field, there's just that respect. There's that kind of honor towards the ref. Whether you agree with the decision or not is a completely different thing. But he's in charge of the game, and if he says it's a penalty or try, you got to take it and leave your opinion for that moment and just get on with the game. That's a wonderful thing in rugby as well, just the honor and respect for the referees.
Yes. Yes. And for those who are watching this that are not necessarily rugby fans, believe me when I tell you, again, coming from a fan of NFL American football for the past 3 decades, this culture in rugby is just different. It truly is. And you have to watch, after watching a few games and just after learning the game of rugby, you will understand what I'm talking about and what Rifle is talking about. It is just different. Yes, games are tough. Yes, there's disagreements. Yes, every once in a while, I'm not going to say that there's never a scuffle on the field in rugby. Yes, every once in a while, there's a scuffle and teams get into it physically. But you notice, even when that's the one thing before we end this episode, Rifle, is even when there is a scuffle, literally 5, 6, 7 seconds later, you see the two players or the group of players that got into the scuffle, literally 5, 6 seconds coming together, shaking hands, tapping each other on the shoulder, on the head. Okay, smiling, and they go back, and it's like never happened.
Yeah, after the game,
As
best friends.
opposed to, again, American sports where there's a scuffle and you see it throughout the whole game. They keep pushing each other, they keep yelling at each other. It's like they never let it go. So yeah, I mean, the rugby culture is it's a whole different world.
Mm.
So yeah,
Lovely game
yes, it
all
is.
round. Mm.
So with that, everyone, we decided just have a little different format in this episode, and just wanted, just from our perspective as fans, just the differences between the culture of rugby and the culture of American sports in general. And again, it's not right, it's not wrong, it's just reality, it's what it is. And we just wanted to cover a few themes, culture wise, between the two different rugby and American sports. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So again, Rifle, thank you, sir, for your perspective as a quote unquote outsider to American sports. Yeah, it was very interesting to hear about your perspective on everything. So pretty cool.
Good.
So with that, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Rifle, thank you again. And until next time, everyone,
Thanks for watching, everyone. Cheers.
take care. Thank you for watching this episode of Rugby with Rifle. Remember to press the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet to support this podcast.